So, everybody's fired up about the run defense today, right? You're seeing it all over social media, hearing it in every conversation, and maybe even yelling it out your car window in frustration. Yeah, the Steelers' run defense was a disaster. Again, we all saw it. But here's the thing. This video, it's not about that. That topic's been beaten to death. There's a much more intriguing storyline in this game, and it starts and ends with the quarterback position. Now, before we dive into it, let's just set the scene. The Steelers went into East Rutherford and took down the New Jersey Jets in a chaotic, drama-filled matchup that ended 34-32. Not a textbook performance, not a defensive masterclass, not a clean game by any stretch. But it was memorable, and for one very specific reason. Quarterback play. And I'm talking about the guy wearing number 8, Aaron Rodgers. This wasn't just a decent showing or a solid outing. This was vintage, borderline poetic quarterbacking. 22 completions out of 30, 244 passing yards, and 4 touchdown throws. Yeah, 4. You could count him like you're stacking poker chips. And as good as those numbers sound, they still don't capture what actually happened on the field. Because what Rodgers did out there wasn't just about moving the chains. It was about manipulating a defense, controlling tempo, and creating opportunities where most quarterbacks see nothing. From the very first snap, this game had a different energy. First play of the game, Rodgers slings it to DK Metcalf. Boom, off the hands. Completely uncharacteristic drop. And you're thinking, okay, this might be one of those days. But what happens next? Second play, Rodgers goes right back to him. This time, Metcalf hauls it in and explodes up the sideline like a freight train in sneakers. And from that moment on, the Jets' defense knew they were in for a long day. That play wasn't just a gain, it was a warning shot. And everybody on the New Jersey sideline heard it loud and clear. That early dominance by Metcalf forced adjustments immediately. Jets defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn might be a lot of things, but he's no fool. He saw the writing on the wall. If you don't take Metcalf seriously, he's going to eat you alive. So what does Glenn do? He starts shifting his coverage, starts sending more attention to Metcalf's side, and that's when things got really interesting. Because when you sell out to stop one weapon, you're going to leave something else exposed. And that's exactly what Arthur Smith, love him or hate him, capitalized on. Midway through the opening drive, the Steelers ran one of the most beautiful offensive plays they've executed in years. Calvin Austin runs what looks like a straight route, but hooks inward just before the end zone. Darnell Washington pulls a defender down short. And out of nowhere, Ben Skowronek, who, let's be honest, is not exactly a household name, find himself so wide open that he could have caught the ball, taken a coffee break, and still walked into the end zone. That touchdown wasn't just a breakdown in coverage. It was a perfect exploitation of defensive overcompensation. And according to some crazy next-gen stat, Skowronek was the most open Steelers receiver for a touchdown in nearly a decade. Think about that. All of that happened because the Jets panicked about Metcalf. But here's where it gets even better. After the game, in the locker room, the receivers are chatting, laughing, cooling down. Arthur Smith comes over, and there's a casual, no-pressure football conversation happening. I throw out a comment to Calvin Austin about how Rodgers seemed to go through his reads methodically, finding secondary and even tertiary options instead of just locking onto his first read. Then I turn to Skowronek and ask, "Were you the primary read on that touchdown?" He gives me a look and says, "There's no such thing. This is Aaron Rodgers." And that answer, as simple as it sounds, says everything. Rodgers isn't just checking boxes. He's seeing the field like a chessboard. The play call might list a WR1, WR2, WR3, but Rodgers? He's picking the move that makes the most sense in real time. That's the difference between a good quarterback and a great one. Then Calvin jumps in and drops a bombshell. His touchdown came on the exact same play as Skowronek's. Same route concepts, same motion, same targets. The only difference? The Jets adjusted, but not in the right way. On Calvin's score, the defender who had previously bid on the route decided to sit back. Feet stuck in cement. Austin peeled right past him. Rodgers recognized it instantly and fired. Boom, touchdown. Same play, different read, same result. That's elite-level quarterbacking. At that point, you could feel the pride bubbling up in the room. Arthur Smith, maybe realizing that he was getting a bit too much credit, redirects the praise to the guys in front of him. He makes it clear that Metcalf set the tone early, that because of his early dominance, everything else opened up, and that the rest of the receiving core, Austin Skronek, Darnell Washington, even Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth, stepped up when it was their turn. As Arthur put it, they had to eat, and they did. This wasn't just a game where one guy carried the team on his back. This was a collective offensive performance sparked by a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback doing exactly what he does best, making the defense wrong. Every time, reading their reactions, punishing overreactions, and never, not once, forcing something that wasn't there. Now, don't get it twisted. This isn't to say that the rest of the team was flawless. Far from it. The run defense? Still a mess. We all know it. The coaching decisions on that side of the ball. We'll talk about that later. But what you witnessed in this game was a masterclass in how one player, one quarterback, can change the entire dynamic of a football game. Not with gimmicks, not with luck, but with precise execution and an understanding of the game that few players ever reach. And this isn't something we've seen in Pittsburgh for a while. Not since pre-arm injury Ben Roethlisberger have the Steelers had someone at quarterback who could manipulate a defense like this. This isn't just about stats, it's about command. It's about authority. And for the first time in years, you got the sense that when the Steelers had the ball, they were the ones dictating terms. Think about how rare that's been in recent seasons. Pittsburgh's offense has too often looked reactionary, predictable, stale. Not anymore. Not with Rodgers at the helm. What you saw was the offense bending the defense to its will, play after play, read after read. And you want to know the craziest part? Rodgers made it look easy, calm in the pocket, sharp with his progressions, unshaken by pressure. That's the kind of presence that lifts an entire team. The offensive line blocks better. The receivers fight harder. The play caller gets bolder. That's the ripple effect of having a true field general under center. So while the internet keeps chewing up the run defense, and rightfully so, don't miss the forest for the trees. The Steelers dropped 34 points. 34. And that's why they won. That's why we're talking about a win instead of another disappointing start. It all comes back to number 8. And what he did on that field might just be the start of something much bigger. And the coaching? Don't even get me started. You want to talk about scheming? This was one of the most baffling strategic decisions in recent memory. Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin rolled into this game with what looked like a wait-and-see approach. They sat in passive fronts, kept the safeties high, and essentially invited the Jets to do exactly what they wanted. This wasn't just bad execution. This was bad planning. You got all this speed, all this aggression, all this talent on the defensive side of the ball, and you come out looking like you're trying to kill time instead of kill drives. It's one thing to get beat by talent. It's another thing to beat yourself with a timid approach. And that's what this looked like. For the better part of 3 quarters, the Steelers' defense just sat back and let it happen. And the worst part? The adjustments didn't come until it was nearly too late. You don't need to be Bill Belichick to know that when a team is gashed on the ground early, you have to adapt fast. Stack the box. Send blitzes. Disrupt timing. Instead, the Steelers stuck with the plan, and they got punished for it. And let's be real, the players didn't help their case either. This wasn't just on the coaching staff. You can draw up all the schemes you want, but at the end of the day, guys have to win their matchups. And in this game, far too many didn't. Keanu Benton, who's had some solid moments in the past, got washed out way too often. Isaiah Loudermilk looked overmatched. Peyton Wilson, as talented as he is, didn't play with the kind of physicality or decisiveness that you need in the middle of the field. These weren't just minor breakdowns. These were major, drive-killing, momentum-swinging failures. One after another. And yeah, you could feel it. The tension, the frustration. The defense was getting gashed, and the body language was starting to show it. Guys hanging their heads, looking around like they weren't sure what was supposed to happen. That's the kind of thing that spreads fast. That's how you lose control of the game. And honestly, if not for the offense putting up 34 points and controlling the tempo when it mattered, this could have been a blowout loss. Easily. What makes this more frustrating is the context. Go back to training camp, to Latrobe. Remember all the talk? All the hype about the defense being aggressive, ferocious, historic, even. Tomlin himself said it. Players talked about bringing the heat, about swarming the ball, about bringing a new energy. And then what? You come out in the opener and play soft zone looks and conservative fronts against a team built to run? How does that even make sense? It's like watching someone train for a street fight and then backpedal into a chess match. That's not what this team was built for. And sure, some of the players owned up to it. Some even used colorful language to describe how poorly they played. But here's the thing. Acknowledging the problem isn't enough. Fixing it is what matters. And right now, based on what we saw, there are real questions about whether this defensive staff is capable of doing that. You've got two men at the helm, Tomlin and Austin, who are supposed to share responsibility for this unit. And at some point, you have to wonder where one stops and the other begins. Because what we saw on Sunday didn't look like a collaborative masterpiece. It looked like a confused, mismatched mess. There were multiple moments where the defense looked completely out of sync. The linebackers dropping too deep. The edges setting too wide. The tackles getting moved off their spots. And communication? Forget it. There were breakdowns that had guys pointing fingers and scrambling to get lined up even after the snap. That's not just poor execution. That's a team that wasn't mentally ready. And that, unfortunately, falls squarely on coaching. Now look, I get it. One game doesn't define a season. But here's the reality. This wasn't a random anomaly. This looked like a continuation of the same defensive issues we've seen in recent years. Go back to the Keith Butler days, and the themes are familiar. Poor run fits, over-reliance on star players to mask holes, and inconsistent gap control. And you start to ask yourself, how much has really changed? Or worse, has anything changed at all? Because here's the ugly truth. If this team doesn't fix its run defense, nothing else will matter. You can have Aaron Rodgers putting on clinics every week, but if your defense can't get off the field, it'll all be for nothing. You can't keep playing games where the offense has to bail you out every time. That's not sustainable. That's not playoff football. That's not how contenders operate. And to make things worse, the league knows it now. Every coordinator watching that game is licking their chops, thinking about what they'll do when they face this Pittsburgh front. The blueprint is out. Attack the middle. Test the linebackers. Force them to tackle in space. If the Steelers don't respond with physicality and discipline, it's going to be a long year. So yeah, enjoy the win. Celebrate the offense. Rodgers deserves every bit of the spotlight. But let's not pretend this was a clean game. There's work to be done. And if the Steelers want to be taken seriously in the AFC, that work has to start now. No more soft fronts. No more playing scared. This defense has to find its identity, and fast. Because the truth is, as great as Rodgers was, he can't be Superman every week. Eventually, there's going to be a game where the offense sputters. That's just the nature of football. And when that happens, the defense needs to be the anchor, the backbone, the unit that slams the door shut. But based on what we just saw, that version of the defense feels like a long way off. And look, we're not asking for perfection. We're not asking for the steel curtain to magically reappear overnight. But there's got to be effort. There's got to be urgency. There's got to be pride. Because right now, this defense is not playing like it believes in itself. And that's a dangerous place to be. You want to know what separates good teams from great ones? It's not talent. It's how they respond to adversity. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Steelers fans, get ready. The rumor mill is spinning, and it's louder than ever. Word on the street is that the Pittsburgh Steelers may have just landed a true game-changer for their defense. Sources hint that Trayvon Diggs, the feared monster defender, known for his ball-hawking skills and lockdown coverage, could be heading to the Steel City. If true, this could signal a seismic shift in the Steelers' secondary and put opponents on notice. Diggs, who has made a name for himself with jaw-dropping interceptions and relentless coverage, has been a thorn in the side of quarterbacks across the league. His reputation as a playmaker precedes him, and imagining him patrolling the Steelers' backfield has fans buzzing with excitement. Pittsburgh's defense has long been a cornerstone of the team's identity, but adding a player of Diggs' caliber could elevate it to elite status almost overnight. While no official announcement has been made, insiders are hinting that talks have been serious. The Steelers, always methodical in their roster moves, would not pursue a player like Diggs lightly. There's speculation that he would immediately take over a starting role, commanding respect from teammates and opponents alike. His presence could open up opportunities for other defenders to make plays, knowing they have one of the league's best cornerbacks covering the field. Social media is already lighting up with hypothetical scenarios. Diggs intercepting a pass against Tom Brady, shutting down Justin Jefferson, or locking down a high-powered offense in a crucial playoff matchup. Fans are imagining the kind of energy and swagger he could bring to Heinz Field. Some skeptics warn that injuries and contract negotiations could complicate things, but the excitement around this potential signing is palpable. If Pittsburgh pulls this off, it won't just be a roster move. It could be a statement. The Steelers would be signaling that they are serious contenders again, willing to invest in game-changing talent. For now, it remains a tantalizing rumor, but the possibility of Trayvon Diggs in black and gold is enough to get every fan dreaming about a defense that could dominate the NFL for years to come. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.